The stars had never looked so cruel. Once they were a dream for humanity, symbols of hope, adventure, and discovery. But now they were the eyes of our conquerors. It began with a shadow that covered the skies of Earth. Giant ships, made of shining silver, appeared above every major city. Their engines roared like thunder, shaking the very foundations of our world. People ran, screamed, prayed, but it was useless. The Veloran Dominion had arrived. They weren't here to make peace. They were here to rule. The Velorans called themselves the oldest empire in the galaxy. They were tall, elegant creatures with glowing skin and golden eyes. They saw themselves as gods among lesser beings, and humans, in their view, were nothing more than wild animals who had accidentally learned to build machines. Their emperor, Valterian IX, sat on a throne that floated in the air. His voice echoed through a massive holographic broadcast that reached every screen on the planet. "People of Terra," he said, his smile colder than the vacuum of space. "Your world now belongs to the Veloran Dominion. You will kneel, and you will serve." The world watched as Earth's leaders were brought before him, on their knees, heads bowed, forced to listen. The Emperor laughed softly, as if amused by their weakness. "You should be proud," he said mockingly. "You will now serve the most perfect race in the galaxy." No one dared to speak. Even when he made them bow before the cameras, no one resisted. But deep inside, in the silent core of our hearts, humanity burned with a quiet, furious anger. The Emperor ordered the complete destruction of Earth's defenses. Our satellites were crushed like paper. Military bases were vaporized in blinding flashes of light. Oceans boiled where alien weapons fired. In a matter of hours, the planet that once stood proud among the stars was brought to its knees. The Velorans built their grand sterile palaces over our ruined cities. Humans were turned into workers, slaves, and test subjects. A new generation of children grew up under alien skies, learning alien laws. Hope was fading, one heartbeat at a time. And yet, among the suffocating darkness, small sparks of rebellion began to glow. In an abandoned research bunker deep beneath the ruins of New York, a group of scientists gathered in secret. They were tired, hungry, but utterly determined. Dr. Arya Clark, one of the last surviving engineers from NASA, stood before a broken table with a holographic map glowing above it. "They think we are broken," she whispered, her voice rough but steady. "They think we have no fight left, but they don't understand what makes us human." A younger scientist looked up, his eyes full of despair. "What can we do, Arya? They control everything. They watch every move we make." Arya offered a faint, tired smile. "Then we stop moving where they can see us." From that day, the human resistance was born, small at first, practically invisible to the alien overlords. They used old communication lines, forgotten subway tunnels, and the ghosts of abandoned satellites. They learned. They studied the Veloran language, their weapons, their ships. They watched, and they waited. Meanwhile, the Emperor continued his cruel games. Every month he would broadcast a grand event, a spectacle to remind the galaxy of his absolute power. He called it the Parade of Submission. In it, humans were made to perform, to kneel, to bow. Billions of beings across the cosmos watched. The Emperor laughed as humans were treated like a cosmic joke, a source of amusement for his vast empire. One day, during such a broadcast, the Emperor asked a simple question. He turned his gaze to one of the human prisoners, a man standing defiant amidst the humiliation. "Tell me," he said, leaning forward, "what do you feel when you look at me?" The man was silent for a moment. His clothes were torn, his face bruised, but his eyes burned with something fierce and unbroken. "I see," he said slowly, his voice carrying across the broadcast, "a coward who hides behind his empire." The Emperor's smile vanished. He waved his hand dismissively, and the man was gone in a flash of light. "See, my dear subjects," the Emperor said, his smile returning wider and more sinister than before. "This is what happens when you forget your place. The crowd of aliens cheered. The humans watching across the globe cried in silence. But somewhere deep below the surface in the hidden tunnels, Arya Clark saw the same broadcast, and she didn't cry. She just whispered to herself, "He made his first mistake." Because now, she had something stronger than fear. She had purpose. The next few years were slow and painful. Humans continued to work as slaves, but now, some used their positions to gather information. Engineers learned the secrets of alien machinery. Soldiers memorized the layouts of enemy ships. Hackers delved into alien code, seeking vulnerabilities. Every piece of data, every small discovery was secretly shared through the underground network they called Echo. The Velorans didn't notice. They were arrogant, complacent. They thought humanity was a defeated, broken species. They didn't realize they were teaching their slaves exactly how to destroy them. One night, deep in the bunker, Arya activated a small device. It was a stolen Veloran power cell, glowing with a strange ethereal blue light. For the first time, she managed to make it respond to human commands. The light pulsed in rhythm with her terminal. The air in the bunker shimmered, and for one incredible second the room shook with a quiet, contained power. "It works," she whispered, a sense of awe in her voice. "We can use their own power against them." A young soldier standing nearby, who hadn't smiled in years, let a grin spread across his face. "When do we start?" Arya looked up at the cracked ceiling, where the distant stars shone faintly through a thick layer of dust and ruin. "Soon," she said, her voice filled with a conviction that had long been absent. "The Emperor may rule the stars, but the fire of Earth still burns." Outside, the alien banners flew high over every continent. The Emperor's face smiled proudly from every screen. He thought humanity was finished. He thought Earth had been broken forever. But in the silence, in the shadows beneath his glittering empire, humanity was rising. And one day, very soon, the laughter of the Emperor would turn into fear. The year is 2242. What was once New York is now a sprawling tomb of steel and silence, a monument to a war we lost. But beneath the rubble, in the skeletal remains of the old subway systems, humanity's heart still beats. This is our story, the story of the hidden resistance. Down here, in the flickering light of salvaged tech, the last of us toil. We are scientists, soldiers, and hackers. We are the ghosts of a world that was. Our mission is singular, forged in desperation, to steal the fire from the gods who cast us down. The Xylos, our alien conquerors, believe us to be a broken species, fit only for servitude. They are wrong. Every day is a fight for survival. We recycle air, cultivate bioluminescent fungi for light and food, and train. We train for the day we can finally fight back. Our commander, General Eva Rostova, a woman whose eyes hold the hardness of diamond, reminds us daily, they took our sky, but they will never take our spirit. Every circuit we solder, every line of code we write, is an act of defiance. Our current objective? Project Nightfall. It's audacious. It's insane. It's our only hope. The plan is to infiltrate the Xylos' central command spire, a jagged monolith that pierces the polluted clouds over what used to be Times Square, and steal the core of their energy matrix. This power source is unlike anything we've ever conceived. If we can capture it, we can power our own advanced weaponry, turning their strength against them. But the spire is a fortress. Patrolled by biomechanical sentinels and monitored by an all-seeing AI, a direct assault is suicide. That's where our secret weapon comes in. Not a bomb, not a gun, but a person. A legend whispered in the darkest corners of our base. They call him the Ghost of Earth. No one knows his real name. No one has seen his face. He communicates only through encrypted, untraceable channels. But his results are undeniable. He's a master of infiltration. A phantom who moves through Xylos systems like a whisper on the wind. He's the one who mapped the Spire's security protocols, identified the nanosecond blind spots in their surveillance grid, and designed the very infiltration route our strike team will take. Tonight, The ghost will personally guide them. As the strike team preps, a sense of grim determination settles over the base. We all gather around the main comms screen. A captured broadcast flickers to life. It's him, Emperor Xylar, the leader of the Xylos, his insectoid features twisted into a grotesque approximation of a smile. His voice, a grating synthesis of clicks and synthesized condescension, echoes through the cavernous base. Humans, he begins, the word dripping with disdain. You continue to toil in your filth, clinging to a past that is dead. Look upon our works and despair. Your world is ours. Your future is ours. Your very existence is a gift from us, one we can just as easily rescind. Rage ripples through the crowd. I see a young engineer, no older than 20, clench his fists until his knuckles are white. I see a veteran soldier, her face a mask of cold fury, her hand resting on the hilt of her combat knife. This is the daily humiliation we endure. This is the fuel for our fire. But as Xylar drones on, something changes. On a secondary screen, a young hacker named Kenji, his fingers flying across a holographic interface, grins. A single line of green code flashes. Connection established. For the first time since the invasion, we're in. We've hacked into one of their drones. A live feed appears on the main screen, pushing the Emperor's smug face to the side. We see the world from an alien eye, soaring over the ruins. Kenji, his voice trembling with excitement, shouts, "I have control! I have control!" A collective gasp fills the room, followed by a wave of triumphant shouts. It's a small victory, a tiny pinprick of light in an endless dark. But it's a start. It's proof. Proof that they are not invincible. Rostova watches, a rare, thin smile gracing her lips. "Good work, Kenji," she says, her voice steady. "Now show them we're still here." With a flick of his fingers, Kenji sends the drone spiraling into a statue of Emperor Xylar, a monument to his arrogance. The explosion is insignificant in the grand scheme of things, but the message is clear. Humanity is not broken. We are not silent. The broadcast cuts out. The Emperor is gone. The drone feed is gone. But the hope it ignited remains, burning brighter than ever. This small act of defiance electrifies the base, a surge of renewed purpose running through us all. It's the perfect prelude to Project Nightfall. The Ghost of Earth sends his final message. The stage is set. Let the show begin. The strike team moves out, disappearing into the dark tunnels that lead to the surface. The rest of us can only watch the monitors, our hearts pounding in our chests. Hours feel like minutes, minutes like an eternity. We track their progress through the spire, a series of green dots moving through a complex blue schematic. They bypass security systems, evade patrols, closer and closer to the core. Back in the lab, Dr. Eris Thorne, the brilliant, haunted mind behind our counter-technology, stands before his creation. It's codenamed Prometheus, a weapon prototype built on theoretical physics and sheer desperation. It's designed to interface with the Xylos energy matrix, to weaponize it. But it's never been tested, it's never been powered. Suddenly, a red alert flashes across the screens. "Strike team compromised," someone yells. The green dots are surrounded by red. They're trapped. A firefight erupts. We hear the high-pitched whine of alien plasma rifles over the comms. "Get them out of there," Rostova commands. "They can't," the comms officer replies, his voice strained. "They're pinned down. They can't reach the core, and they can't retreat." Despair begins to creep back in, cold and familiar. Did we come this far only to fail? Was it all for nothing? Then a new voice cuts through the chaos. Calm, collected, the ghost. "They don't need to reach the core, they just needed to get close enough to establish a direct data link, rerouting power conduit access. Dr. Thorne, it's your turn." Everyone turns to Thorne. He looks at the Prometheus device, a complicated lattice of wires and unknown alloys. It's not ready. The power surge could be unstable. It could overload, it could detonate, it could... "We have no other choice, Doctor," Rostova says, her voice iron. "Do it." With a shaking hand, Thorne initiates the sequence. He bypasses safety protocols, shunting the raw data stream from the spire directly into the Prometheus device. The weapon hums, then groans, the sound of stressed metal filling the lab. Lights flicker across the entire base as it draws power from our own grid. The weapon's central chamber begins to glow, a faint, angry red. It pulses, growing brighter, hotter. The groaning intensifies. It's going to overload. This is it. Our last gamble has failed, and then it stops. The violent red light vanishes. The groaning ceases. For a heart-stopping second, there is only silence. Dr. Thorne stares at the inert device, his face pale with defeat. But then, a new light emerges from the core of the Prometheus weapon. It's not red. It's a soft, steady, brilliant blue. The same blue as the Xylo's energy. The weapon's casing shifts, its components reconfiguring themselves with quiet, precise clicks. On the main monitor, a new diagnostic appears. Alien technology integrated, system online, Prometheus active. Thorne looks up, his eyes wide with a mixture of terror and awe. We didn't just steal their power. We've tamed it. We've made it our own. A wave of silent disbelief washes over the command center. For the first time, we don't just have a plan. We have a weapon. We have a chance. And the Xylos have no idea what's coming. The war for Earth is far from over. In fact, it's just begun. Thank you so much for joining us on this journey into the world of the hidden resistance. The wind across Mars whispered secrets over the silent red dunes. For years, this dead planet was just a reminder of what humanity had lost. But tonight, it would become the stage for our first victory. Deep beneath the Martian surface, hidden within an abandoned mining station, the human resistance was preparing for war. It had been months since Arya Clark and her small team pulled off the impossible. They stole a Veloran power core. With it, they built a weapon the aliens thought we could never create, a device powered by their own energy, but controlled by human minds. They called it the Phoenix device, because like the mythical bird, it was born from fire and the ashes of our old world. The bunker was a hive of frantic activity. Engineers worked around the clock, welding, coding, and testing energy cells. Holograms of alien warships hung in the air, covered in handwritten notes and strategic battle plans. Captain Reed stood beside Arya, his eyes fixed on the final diagnostics. "It's hard to believe," he said, his voice a low rumble. "Just a few years ago, we were hiding in the dirt, barely able to fight back. Now, we're about to hit them on their own turf." Arya offered a faint, tired smile. "We've been quiet for long enough, Captain. It's time they hear us roar." Far above them, in the cold, silent orbit of Mars, stood a Veloran outpost. It was a fortress of dark metal that gleamed like a dagger in the faint sunlight. This base was a key node in the Dominion's control over our solar system, housing weapons, vital data, and communication relays. If it fell, the Empire's grip would finally show a crack. Our plan was brutally simple: hit fast and disappear even faster. We didn't have a fleet, or an army, or any super weapons to speak of. But what we had was courage, and a secret advantage they never saw coming. As the Martian night fell, 3 small ships rose from the crimson dust. They were old cargo haulers, refitted and covered in radar-absorbent paint. Every soldier on board knew this mission was likely a one-way trip. In the cockpit of the lead ship, a young pilot named Leon gripped the controls, his knuckles white. He was nervous, but his eyes burned with determination. "I still can't believe we're actually attacking a Veloran fortress," he muttered. Captain Reed chuckled, the sound crackling over the comms. "Believe it, kid, and make every shot count." Their ship sliced silently through the thin Martian atmosphere, arrowing toward the distant glowing lights of the alien base. The vast red landscape stretched out below them, a battlefield frozen in time. From her command center back on Earth, Arya's voice came through their headsets, calm and clear. "Remember, once you're in position, activate the Phoenix device. It will overload their primary shields. You'll have exactly 90 seconds to strike. 90 seconds, that's all." "Copy that, Arya," Reed confirmed, his voice now steel. We won't waste it. Inside the alien fortress, the Veloran officers were oblivious, complacent. They believed no human could ever reach Mars, let alone mount an attack. Their defense systems were on standby. Guards chatted lazily at their posts. The Emperor's supreme arrogance had made them blind. Then the silence of the Martian night shattered. 3 small ghost-like ships appeared out of the dust storm, and the Phoenix device activated. A colossal wave of brilliant blue energy erupted across the sky, washing over the Veloran base. The outpost shields flickered, sizzled, and died. Lights inside the fortress dimmed as systems crashed and alarms blared in a confused chorus. "What was that?" one of the Veloran officers shouted, just as the first human missiles slammed into the command tower. The explosion was a brilliant, searing flower of fire that lit up the horizon, the first spark of freedom on another world. Aboard the human ship, Leon let out a whoop of triumph. "It worked! Their systems are down!" Reed's voice cut through the celebration, sharp as glass. "Don't celebrate yet. Focus fire on their weapon silos. We're not just here to dent their pride. We're here to break their sword." The 3 ships dove low, weaving through the sudden chaos of debris and panicked plasma fire from the base's secondary defenses. Alien drones scrambled to intercept, but their targeting systems were still rebooting, making them clumsy and ineffective. The human fighters danced through the pandemonium like vengeful ghosts. One by one, secondary explosions ripped through the Veloran base. Ammunition stores cooked off in spectacular fireballs. Docked ships melted into slag. Communication towers crumbled into dust. The entire outpost was collapsing in on itself, a dying metal beast. Back on Earth, Arya watched the data stream pour in, her heart pounding against her ribs. She saw the energy readings from the base flatline, the communication links go dead. "They did it," she whispered, her voice filled with awe. They actually did it. For the first time in a decade, humanity had struck back and won. But this victory was more than just a destroyed outpost. It was hope. Across the Resistance's underground networks, the news spread like wildfire. Encrypted messages flashed from one hidden terminal to another. "We hit them. Mars is burning. Humanity fights again, far across the galaxy, in the opulent capital of the Veloran Dominion." The Emperor stood before a massive viewing screen. He watched the grainy, chaotic footage of the attack on Mars replay in grim silence. Human ships, human weapons, human defiance. His golden eyes, usually calm and imperious, narrowed into dangerous slits. "Impossible," he hissed, the word barely a whisper. "They are nothing. They are primitive." One of his advisors bowed low, trembling. "Your Majesty, perhaps it was a pirate faction using salvaged—" "No," the Emperor interrupted, his voice cutting through the air like a whip. "It was them, the Terrans. They dared to defy me." He turned, his gaze sweeping across the star charts that filled the room, his voice suddenly rising to a thundering roar. "Send a fleet. Burn their world. Let them remember who rules this galaxy." Back on Mars, as the 3 human ships sped away from the burning ruin, Leon looked out the window at the destruction they had wrought. "We actually did it," he said again, this time with quiet reverence. Reed nodded, his face illuminated by the distant fires. "Yeah, we did. But this is just the beginning." Arya's voice came over the comms again, calm but firm, laced with a new urgency. "You've started something the Emperor can't ignore, and he can't stop. But now he's coming for us with everything he has. We need to be ready." Everyone on that ship and everyone in the Resistance knew what that meant. Their small victory had poked the hornet's nest. The Emperor's pride was wounded, and his rage would be terrible and swift. But for the first time in a long time, humanity was no longer just afraid. We had proven we could fight. We had proven we could win. And looking out at the star-filled sky, it didn't look so cruel and empty anymore. It looked possible. In the vast darkness of space, the burning light from Mars was a small, defiant flame glowing against the infinite, cold empire of stars. And deep in his golden throne room, the Emperor whispered his promise of vengeance. "They will pay for this." But he was wrong. The fire had already started to spread, and soon, the Dominion itself would burn. Thanks for watching our story unfold. If you want to see what happens next in humanity's fight for freedom, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We've got a lot more to show you. The silence of space is deceptive. It seems cold, endless, empty. But today near the moon, something is waking. A weapon, a trap, a machine unlike anything the galaxy has ever seen. Months have passed since the miraculous victory on Mars. Humanity is no longer hiding. We are preparing. In secret bases buried deep beneath the Earth's crust and on the desolate dark side of the moon, the Resistance has been building its greatest creation, the Titan Network. This isn't just a defense grid, it's a testament to human ingenuity, a web of stolen alien cores and pure, unfiltered creativity. In the heart of the Moon Base Command Center, Dr. Arya Clark stands amidst a symphony of glowing screens and humming machines. Exhaustion is etched on her face, but her eyes burn with an unyielding fire. "Status report," she commands, her voice steady. Leon, once a rookie pilot, now a master engineer and hacker, can barely contain his excitement. "All quantum mirror cannons are online, Dr. Clark. Shield matrix is stable. Reactor cores holding steady at 92%. Captain Reed, his old uniform a patchwork of scars and memories, steps forward. His presence alone is a comfort. "The fleet's in position, ma'am. The moment they arrive, we hit them with everything we've got." Arya nods, her gaze fixed on the main view screen showing the star-dusted void. "They aren't coming to negotiate this time. They're coming to destroy us. Let's make sure they never leave." Far across that void, the Emperor's fleet materializes. Hundreds of warships glowing like malevolent suns spread across the darkness like a wall of inevitable death. At their head, aboard his golden flagship, the Eternal Sovereign, is the Emperor himself. He watches the distant, beautiful blue glow of Earth through a massive viewport, a cold, cruel smile playing on his lips. "So this is the world that dares defy me," he whispers, the sound barely audible above the thrum of his vessel. His voice then rings across the command bridge, dripping with absolute authority. "Prepare the purification strike. Leave nothing alive." His officers bow in perfect unison. "At once, Your Majesty." Back on the moon, the tension is a physical force. Arya watches the main radar screen as it blossoms with red. Massive dots, each one an enemy warship, fill the map. She takes a deep, steadying breath. This is it. The Emperor himself is here. A grim smile touches Captain Reed's lips. "Good. Then we can finish this once and for all." The plan is elegantly simple and absolutely lethal. We will let the Veloran fleet enter the trap zone, a carefully mapped area around the moon. Hidden within this zone are satellites and cannons that form a colossal energy web, the Titan net. Once the enemy fleet is inside, the net will do something they won't expect. It will reflect their own weapon fire right back at them. We might not have the biggest guns in the galaxy, but we definitely have the smartest minds. As the Veloran ships glide into position, the first volley is unleashed. Beams of sickly green energy lance toward Earth's orbit. Down on the surface, cities tremble as the sky lights up with alien fire. But just before the beams can reach the planet's atmosphere, they simply vanish. Aboard the Eternal Sovereign, the Emperor frowns. "What happened? Report. Where is the impact?" A bridge officer hesitates, his voice trembling slightly. "Your Majesty, the energy was redirected." "Redirected? How?" Before the officer can even try to answer, a series of massive explosions rocks the entire Veloran fleet. Their own beams, moments ago streaking toward Earth, have turned around, slamming back into their own ships with devastating force. The Emperor stands frozen, staring out the viewport as one of his prized destroyers splits in half, a silent, fiery flower of destruction. "Impossible," he breathes. On the moon, the command center erupts. Arya's voice cuts through the rising cheer. "It's working. The quantum mirrors are active." Leon is laughing with pure, unadulterated joy. "They're shooting themselves. They're actually shooting themselves. Captain Reed roars the order that will seal their fate. All cannons fire! Dozens of hidden weapons powered up across the entire lunar surface awaken. Brilliant blue light fills the darkness as concentrated energy bolts tear through space. The once silent moon has become a fortress of righteous thunder. The Veloran ships, now in disarray, try to respond, firing back in a panic. But every single blast hits the shimmering, invisible Titan net and bounces away like light against a pane of glass. Ship after ship falls, their opulent golden hulls breaking apart in silent, brilliant flames. This can't be happening. One alien commander screams over the comms. They are using our own power against us. The Emperor's rage is a palpable force that shakes his flagship. "Destroy that moon!" he bellows, his voice cracking with fury. "I want it gone." But as his remaining battleships aim their primary cannons at the source of their misery, the quantum mirrors shift once more. And this time, the Emperor's own flagship takes the full force of the redirected blast. The explosion throws him from his throne to the floor. Alarms scream like tormented souls. Fire erupts across the opulent control deck. And for the first time in his long, tyrannical life, Emperor Valterian IX feels something utterly alien to him: fear. From her command chair, Arya watches the beautiful chaos unfold. "They're breaking formation. They're retreating." Reed turns to her, his expression intense. "Do we let them go?" Arya shakes her head slowly, her eyes cold as the void itself. "No, not this time." She presses a single command key on her console. "Activate the Phoenix." A massive surge of blue energy spreads across the entire Titan net, a final brilliant crescendo. Every human cannon on the moon and in orbit fires at once. The sky turns into a solid wall of fire. The remaining Veloran ships don't just explode, they shatter, disintegrating into atoms. The soundless scream of their utter destruction echoes through the emptiness of space. For a few glorious minutes, the darkness is banished, replaced by the burning light of human revenge. On the Eternal Sovereign, what's left of it, the ship spins out of control. Systems flicker and die. Thick, acrid smoke fills the air. A surviving officer scrambles to his feet, shouting, "Your Majesty, we've lost half the fleet, we must withdraw." The Emperor grips the arm of his throne, his magnificent golden armor now cracked and scorched. His pride is bleeding far more than his physical wounds. "Retreat?" he whispers, the word tasting like ash. "I do not retreat." Another violent explosion shakes the ship. He forces himself to look out the viewport, and for the first time he sees Earth not as a weak, primitive planet, but as a predator. He clenches his fists, the metal groaning in protest. They will regret this. But deep inside, he knows the truth. Humanity has outsmarted him. Back on the moon, the human base roars with victory. Cheers echo through every tunnel and corridor. Screens flash with victorious images of burning alien ships. Captain Reed turns to Arya, a look of awe on his face. "You did it. You magnificent woman, you beat him." She shakes her head softly, a tired but triumphant smile gracing her lips. "No, we all did. Humanity did." Leon grins, his face flushed with adrenaline. "The Emperor won't forget this day." Arya looks at the field of burning wrecks drifting silently through space. "Good," she says quietly, her voice filled with grim satisfaction. "Let him remember who we are." Far away, the Emperor's crippled flagship limps through the darkness, vanishing into the deep shadows between the stars. His empire is shaken, his pride is shattered, and in the suffocating silence of his ruined throne room, he whispers a vow: "They will fear the day I return." But deep in the dark, the humans are already preparing for what comes next. Because we all know, this war is not over. It has just begun. The stars beyond the flagship, Eternal Sovereign, were quiet, too quiet. Once the Emperor had seen them as his crown, each distant light a world that bowed to him, a jewel in his endless empire. But now those same stars looked like eyes, watching, judging, whispering of his failure. The great ship drifted through deep space, its golden armor scarred and blackened from the battle near Earth's moon. Entire sections were gone, ripped away. Fires still burned in the lower decks. This once proud symbol of the Veloran Dominion now looked like a wounded beast, limping home through the void. Inside the command hall, the air was thick with smoke and silence. The Emperor sat on his throne, his own golden armor cracked. A faint, thin cut marked his cheek, the first blood he had shed in decades. His eyes were cold, glowing with a dim, dangerous light in the darkened hall. "Status," he said, his voice a low rumble. A nervous officer bowed deeply, his voice shaking. "Your Majesty, we lost over 60% of the fleet. Communications with the outer colonies have been cut off. The Terrans—" The Emperor's voice sliced through the air like a blade. "Do not call them that." The officer froze, his face pale. "Forgive me, Your Majesty." The Emperor spoke each word slowly, deliberately. "They are humans, primitive, foolish, emotional creatures, and yet they humiliated me." The words tasted like poison in his mouth. He rose from his throne, the sound of his armor scraping against the metal floor echoing in the silence. He walked toward the massive viewing window. Beyond the reinforced glass, the ruins of his destroyed ships floated in a silent, macabre dance, twisted metal, drifting bodies, shattered pride. He clenched his fists, his knuckles white. How? How did they do this? No one dared to answer. In another part of the crippled ship, a captured Veloran officer, one of his finest commanders, sat inside a glowing energy cell. He had been caught attempting to retreat during the battle, a coward in the Emperor's eyes. The Emperor entered the cell chamber, a silent, menacing presence. "You were there," he said softly, his voice barely a whisper. "Tell me what you saw." The officer trembled, looking up at the fearsome figure. "Your Majesty, they used your own weapons. They turned your power against you." "That's impossible," the Emperor snapped, his voice crackling with fury. "No lesser race could control Veloran energy. It is a gift of our bloodline." The officer swallowed hard, his fear palpable. "They learned, Majesty. Faster than we could react. They adapted." The Emperor stepped closer, his glowing eyes narrowing into slits. "Adapted?" "Yes," the officer stammered. They studied us. They learned how our systems think, how our ships move, how our minds work. Every time we fought them, they became stronger. It was like they evolved in days what takes us centuries to master." The Emperor's face went still, a mask of cold fury. For a long, tense moment, he said nothing. Then he whispered a single, venomous word. "Humans." He turned away, gazing back at the silent, watching stars. "They are not supposed to be like this," he muttered, almost to himself. Their world was weak. Their technology was primitive. How could such a species rise so fast? The officer remained silent, knowing that any word could mean his death. The Emperor finally spoke again, his voice filled with a chilling realization. Perhaps it was arrogance. Back on Earth, deep beneath the surface, the heart of the Resistance pulsed with new life. They had grown stronger than ever before. The Titan network, a web of repurposed Veloran technology, now guarded the skies. New human bases had been built on Mars and the Moon, turning their solar system into a fortress. Dr. Arya Clark stood in the command room staring at the stars on a holographic map. "He's not done," she said quietly, her voice firm. "The Emperor won't stop until one of us is gone." Captain Reed stood beside her, his jaw set. "Then we make sure it's him." Leon, now one of the most brilliant hackers in the fleet, grinned from his console. "You really think he'll come back after the beating we just gave him?" Arya offered a cold, determined smile. "Pride is his greatest weakness. He'll come, and when he does, we'll be ready." Meanwhile, in the Veloran capital, a breathtaking city of gold and crystal, the Emperor returned. Crowds of aliens bowed as his damaged flagship landed, but their hushed whispers filled the air like a plague. The Emperor was defeated. The humans made him bleed. Is the Dominion no longer supreme? He could hear them all, their words like 1,000 tiny needles against his pride. Inside his private chamber, he slammed his hand against a golden wall. The metal dented under his immense strength. "They dare to mock me," he hissed, his voice a low growl. "On my own world." A calm, deep voice spoke from behind him. It belonged to his most trusted advisor, Lord Sareth. "Majesty, perhaps it is time to reconsider your approach. The humans—" "Enough," the Emperor snapped, turning on him. "They are insects. I will crush their planet into dust and scatter it across the galaxy." Sareth remained silent for a moment, letting the Emperor's rage wash over him before speaking carefully. "Majesty, I have studied their battle records. They do not fight for conquest. They fight for survival. That is what makes them so dangerous. You cannot threaten those who believe they have already lost everything." The Emperor stared at him, his golden eyes narrowing into piercing points of light. "You fear them?" "No," Sareth said slowly, his voice steady. "But I understand them. And that, Majesty, is worse." Later, alone in his vast throne room, the Emperor replayed the recordings from the battle. The holographic images flickered, showing human ships, small, fragile, and utterly outmatched, weaving through chaos, fearless. Their voices crackled over the captured radio channels, not with fear, but with a burning, unyielding determination. For Earth, for humanity, we rise or die together. He listened to their cries over and over again. Something stirred deep inside him, not admiration, but a profound unease. A feeling he had not known for centuries. "They are not just another race," he whispered to the empty room. "They are a force of will." He looked down at his own reflection in the polished floor, a ruler of 1,000 worlds, brought to his knees by a planet that once begged for his mercy. "No," he growled, the sound echoing through the hall. "I will not be remembered as the Emperor who lost to them." He turned his gaze back toward the stars, his decision made. Summon the Omega Fleet. Prepare the superweapon. If I must burn their entire solar system to ash to erase them from history, then so be it. Far away on Earth, Arya looked at the night sky, at the stars that once seemed so peaceful. She could almost feel the storm gathering across the cosmos. "He's angry," she said softly. "He's going to strike harder than ever before." Reed looked at her, his expression resolute. "Then we hit harder." Arya nodded slowly, a fire in her eyes. "For every world he conquered, for every life he destroyed, we will make his empire remember the name of Earth forever." The stars shimmered faintly above them, silent witnesses to the coming war. And in that silence, one truth had become clear to both sides. The Emperor had begun to fear humanity, and fear was the beginning of his fall. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed this story and want to see what happens next in the war for humanity's survival, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. We have so much more to explore in this universe, and we can't wait to share it with you. See you next time. Start of narration. Imagine a galaxy where humanity is thought to be extinct, a ghost whispered among the stars. For centuries, the mighty Veloran Empire has reigned supreme, their dominion absolute, their power unchallenged. They control the Nexus, an ancient network of wormholes that stitches the galaxy together, a legacy of a long-vanished, godlike race. The Velorans believe themselves to be the inheritors of this cosmic web, the rightful rulers of all it touches. They grew complacent, fat with power, forgetting the lessons of history. They forgot about the small blue world they once tried to conquer. They forgot about Earth. But ghosts have a way of remembering. Deep within the forgotten fringes of the galaxy, a spark has been quietly nurtured. Scattered and broken, the last remnants of humanity didn't just survive. They adapted. They learned the secrets of the Nexus, the very network their oppressors used to rule. They became phantoms in the machine, whispers in the void, moving unseen through the veins of the Empire. They were waiting, biding their time, honing their anger into a blade sharp enough to sever the head of a galactic tyrant. Tonight, that blade falls. The scene is Velora Prime, the jewel of the Empire, a planet city of impossible spires and shimmering energy fields. 1 trillion souls celebrate the millennial anniversary of the Emperor's ascension. The skies are filled with holographic fireworks, displaying glorious moments from Veloran history. It is a spectacle of power, a declaration of eternal dominance. The Emperor, Vexiron VII, watches from his obsidian throne high in the apex citadel, a faint, self-satisfied smile playing on his lips. His reign has been one of peace, a peace maintained by the utter annihilation of any potential threat. A peace built on ashes. Suddenly the celebration shatters. The nexus gates that pepper Velora Prime's orbit, normally glowing with a serene blue light, flash a violent, chaotic crimson. Alarms blare across the planet, a symphony of panic replacing the festive music. Imperial fleet commanders scream orders into their comms, but it's too late. From the bleeding gates, ships emerge, not the sleek organic cruisers of the Veloran Navy, but something else. They are angular, brutalist, cobbled together with a desperate and dangerous ingenuity. They are human ships. They don't engage the orbital defenses. They don't have to. Their targets are strategic, precise, and utterly devastating. Power conduits that feed the capital's shields are severed. Communication arrays are vaporized. The planet-wide grid, the very lifeblood of Velora Prime, flickers and dies, plunging the glittering city into an abyss of darkness, lit only by the fires of explosions. The wolf is inside the fold, and the sheep are blind. Chaos erupts in the streets below. The once orderly Veloran citizens, who have not known war on their homeworld for millennia, descend into a panicked mob. They trample each other in the darkness, their cries of terror echoing through the grand boulevards. Up in the apex citadel, Emperor Vexiron stands, his fists clenched. He watches the pinpricks of light from the human fleet dance across his darkened world, a plague of fireflies heralding his doom. His guards, the elite Praetorian Guard, form a protective ring around him, their energy pikes humming nervously. "Report!" he bellows, his voice shaking with a fury he hasn't felt in centuries. "Who are they? How did they use the Nexus against us?" The reply comes from his Grand Admiral, his holographic form flickering with static. "Emperor. They're using ghost codes, signatures of a species long thought purged. They're human." The name hangs in the air, a curse from a forgotten age. Human. The insignificant insects he thought his ancestors had swatted into oblivion. How? As the Citadel's emergency power kicks in, casting the throne room in a grim red light, a new symbol begins to appear across the city. On the walls of the Grand Forum, on the sides of toppled statues, on the very viewport of the throne room itself, a symbol is being digitally projected from an unknown source. It's a simple, stark image, a circle divided into 4 quadrants, the ancient symbol for Earth. It's a message, a brand. They are not just attacking, they are reclaiming, they are signing their work. The Emperor stares at the symbol on his viewport, his 3 hearts pounding in his chest. This isn't just an invasion, it's a haunting. It's vengeance made manifest. The arrogance drains from his face, replaced by a cold, primal fear. He had dismissed them as vermin. But vermin, when cornered, can chew through the foundations of an empire. He feels a sudden chill, a change in the air of the throne room that has nothing to do with the failing life support. The humming of his guards' energy pikes ceases. He turns slowly, his royal robes rustling in the sudden deafening silence. His Praetorian Guard lie slumped on the floor, their armor smoking, their lives extinguished without a sound. Standing between him and his throne is a single figure. It's cloaked in a dark, form-fitting suit that seems to drink the red emergency light. The figure's helmet is opaque, a polished black mirror reflecting the Emperor's own terrified face. There was no alarm, no breach warning, It simply appeared, as if it stepped out of the shadows themselves. "My guards," the Emperor whispers, his voice barely audible. A voice, filtered through a synthesizer but unmistakably human, replies. It is calm, cold, and utterly devoid of mercy. They were in the way. The figure takes a step forward. "Vexiron the Seventh, your dynasty began with the burning of our world. You built your throne on the bones of our children and called it peace." The Emperor stumbles back, his regal demeanor crumbling entirely. What are you?" he stammers, his eyes wide with disbelief and terror. The figure slowly raises a hand, and the opaque faceplate retracts, revealing a human face. It's a woman, her features sharp, her eyes burning with a cold fire that has been banked for generations. Scars trace patterns across her cheek, testaments to a life of struggle he could never imagine. She is the culmination of a century of hatred, the living embodiment of a species that refused to die. She looks at the trembling tyrant, the ruler of 1,000 worlds, now just a frightened old man in a dying room. A faint, chilling smile touches her lips. "We are the ghosts you made," she says, her voice echoing in the silent throne room. "And we have returned to claim our inheritance." The screen cuts to black. The story of the Veloran Empire is over. The story of humanity's vengeance has just begun. Thank you so much for watching this journey into the fall of an empire. If you enjoyed this story and want to see what happens next, what vengeance the Ghost of Earth will enact, make sure to hit that like button. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next chapter in this galactic saga. We've got so much more to explore. Let me know in the comments what you think the Emperor's final moments were like. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring the stars. The golden city of the Velorans was silent. Smoke drifted between broken towers, and the once bright palace of the Emperor now lay in ruins. What had once been the heart of the greatest empire in the galaxy was now only dust and memory. Human ships hovered in the sky above the planet, casting long shadows across the burned marble streets. From orbit, Earth's blue and white flag shone bright on every screen, a message carried across every world. The Dominion has fallen. Humanity stands free. In the ruins of the throne room, the Emperor sat alone. His armor was broken, his crown shattered. The fires of his empire reflected in his golden eyes. He had ruled for centuries. He had commanded 1,000 worlds. But now, all he could hear was the echo of silence. He looked at his hands that had once commanded entire fleets, and saw blood. Human blood. Veloran blood. His own. For the first time in his long, tyrannical life, he felt small. The sound of footsteps broke the silence. Arya Clark entered the ruined throne room, followed by Captain Reed, Leon, and a squad of human soldiers. Her boots crunched on the shattered marble floor. She stopped a few meters away from the fallen Emperor. He looked up slowly. His voice was hoarse, weak, but still proud. "You've come to kill me." Arya shook her head. "No, we came for something else." The Emperor laughed bitterly. "Then what? My surrender? My humiliation?" She looked at him calmly. "No, Valterian. Humanity doesn't want your throne. We just want you to understand." The Emperor frowned. "Understand what?" Arya stepped closer. "You thought power was about fear, about control. But you never understood that power is also about hope. And hope," she said softly, "is something you could never destroy." He stared at her, silent. Outside, thousands of alien civilians watched as human troops moved through the streets. Not as conquerors, but as liberators. They handed out food, treated the wounded, and helped the Velorans who had suffered under their own ruler's pride. The galaxy watched in disbelief. No one expected mercy from humanity. But that mercy became their greatest strength. Back inside the throne room, Reed stepped forward. "Arya, we have transmission requests from 50 systems. They're asking if Earth is the new capital of the galaxy." Arya smiled faintly. "No. Tell them Earth is a friend, not a ruler." Leon laughed softly. You know, that's the kind of thing that makes legends. She looked back at the Emperor. Legends are built on truth, and the truth is simple. We just refuse to break. The Emperor's breathing was shallow. He looked at Arya, then at the human flag outside the shattered window. You want me to bow to you? That's what this is. Arya shook her head. No, I don't want you to bow to me. I want you to bow to truth. He blinked. Truth? That you were wrong, she said quietly. That humans were never weak. That the fire you tried to crush only made us burn brighter. The Emperor lowered his gaze. For a long moment he said nothing. The wind howled softly through the broken palace walls. Finally he spoke. You are dangerous, Arya Clark. No, she said. We're human. She turned away, but before she could leave, she heard it. A soft sound. A movement. The Emperor had fallen to his knees. Every soldier in the room froze. The galaxy's mightiest ruler, the man who had enslaved worlds and burned planets, was now kneeling before a human. He looked up at her, eyes wet with defeat. You have won. The Dominion is yours. Arya didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply said, no, it was never about winning. It was about ending. Then she turned to Reed. Transmit this moment to every world still fighting. Let them see what pride brings and what hope can do. Reed nodded and pressed a button. Across the stars, billions watched the image of the Emperor on his knees. Not before an army, but before the spirit of humanity itself. And in that moment something shifted. The galaxy changed. Later, as the fires cooled, Arya stood outside the palace. She looked up at the stars, those same cold lights that had once watched over humanity's suffering. Now they looked different. Now they looked like home. Leon walked up beside her, smiling. So, what happens now? Arya sighed softly. Now we rebuild. Not just Earth, the galaxy. We show them that humans don't conquer. We create. Reed joined them, looking toward the horizon. Do you think he'll ever understand what we taught him? Arya's eyes softened. Maybe. But understanding isn't for him anymore, it's for everyone who watches. She looked up one last time at the burning remains of the Veloran capital. He called us primitive, she whispered. He forgot that every primitive spark can become a star. Far away, in the silence of space, a faint signal flickered. An unknown transmission from the edge of the galaxy. Leon noticed it on his console. Hey, that's strange. I'm picking up a signal. Not Veloran, not human. Arya frowned. Play it. Static filled the air, followed by a strange alien voice. We saw what you did, humans. We are watching. Everyone went silent. Arya's expression turned calm. Then let them watch. He called us weak. He called us animals. But we endured. We rose. And when the stars laughed at humanity, we made the galaxy kneel. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next adventure. See you next time.